These are your Unit 1A, Day 6 notes. In this set of notes, we are going to focus on learning the different properties of addition and multiplication. And this falls under Standard 3B, I can make viable arguments and decisions. You are going to need to understand these rules so that you can justify why an answer is correct. So let's start with a commutative property. The word commutative comes from the word commute. And the word commute means move around. So when we think about the commutative property, we're going to think about moving integers around. And remember, integers are all positive and negative numbers. So what does that look like in an actual equation? Well, what this means is if you are only adding, it doesn't matter what order you put the numbers in. You can move them around and you get the same thing. Only if you're only adding. Once you add in other operations, the rule doesn't apply. So what we're saying here is 2 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 2. And just to double check, 2 plus 3 equals 5. Yep. And 3 plus 2 equals 5. So is that true? Yes, it is. The same thing holds true for multiplication. If you are only multiplying, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. You can move the numbers around. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. And 3 times 2 is equal to 6. In this space, you are going to practice using the commutative property to fill in the missing blanks. For example, we have 9 plus 2, and that is equivalent to 2 plus 9, because when you are only adding or only multiplying, the order does not change the answer. So same thing over here. 9 times 2 is equal to 2 times what? What's the missing number? 9. So 9 would go here. Okay? In these first set of problems, that's what you'll be expected to do, is to determine what number goes in the missing place. Now, when we get down to the bottom here, you are given an equation, and then you have the other side, and there is nothing here. Your job is to determine what two numbers would go here to make this statement true. What would I put here that would be equal to what is here? Well, remember, when we're adding, it doesn't matter what order the numbers are in. It's still the same answer. So negative 9 plus negative 2 is equal to negative 2 plus negative 9. So your job now is to pause the video and complete these problems on your own. Okay, hopefully you tried these on your own and you got the same answer. So pause the video again and check your work. If you did not get the same answer, I want you to make a correction and try to figure out what your mistake was. The next property we're going to look at is the associative property. The word associative comes from associate or group. So you might have heard like who you associate with is your group. So the associative property refers to groups of integers, which is, remember, those positive and negative numbers. So make sure you have this in your notes. So associative property refers to groups of integers. And what that means is when you are just adding or when you are multiplying, you can group the numbers in different ways and you still get the same answer. So here we go. Here's an example for addition. 2 plus the quantity 3 plus 4 is equivalent to the quantity 2 plus 3 plus 4. When I say the quantity, that's referring to what's within the parentheses, which is also the group. So pretty much you can see on this side we have a 2, a 3, and a 4. And on this side we have a 2, a 3, and a 4. On this side, the 3 and the 4 are grouped together. And on this side, the 2 and the 3 are grouped together. The answer is the same even though they're grouped differently, and that is what the associative property tells you. So we can check our work here. So remember, when we have order of operations, you have to remember the parentheses are first, okay? That's what we're looking at when we're looking at these groups. Remember, parentheses is first with order of operations. So we have 2 plus the quantity, 3 plus 4. What's in our parentheses? 3 plus 4. So we go ahead and that becomes 7. 2 plus 7 is equal to 9. If we go on this equation, we have the quantity 2 plus 3 in parentheses. So you would add that together first. 2 plus 3 is 5. And 5 plus 4 is 9. So you can see here when you're adding, it doesn't matter how the numbers are grouped. If you're only adding, you're going to get the same answer. All right, and the same thing goes for multiplication. So we have 2 times the quantity 3 times 4. That's equivalent to the quantity 2 times 3 times 4. We do parentheses first, so we look at this problem. Oh, parentheses first, so 3 times 4, that's 12. So we did our parentheses first over here, and now we have left with 2 times 12. 2 times 12 is 24. We go to this side, we have 2 times 3 in the parentheses. We do our parentheses first. 2 times 3 is 6. And 6 times 4 is 24. So you can see here, when you multiply, it doesn't matter how they're grouped. If it's only multiplying, you're going to get the same answer. And that is what the associative property is telling you. So now we're going to fill in these blanks using the information we know about the associative property. So if we look at this first one, we have 2 plus the quantity 3 plus 4. Over on this side, we have 2 plus 3, the quantity 2 plus 3, plus, what's our missing number? 4. So that's why we put the 4 there. 2 plus the quantity 3 plus 4 is equal to the quantity 2 plus 3 plus 4. Doesn't matter how you group the numbers as long as they're the same on both sides, and it's only adding. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the missing number here. And then for these 3, you're going to put what the entire thing should be over here. So looking at this one, for example, we have 1 plus the quantity negative 6 plus 2. So on this side, we'd have the quantity 1 plus negative 6 plus 2. See? It's the same exact numbers. They're just grouped differently. Go ahead, pause the video, and finish the rest of these on your own. Okay? Hopefully you tried these and you got the same answer. So go ahead, pause the video, and check your work. If you did not get the correct answer, fix it and try to figure out why. If you can't, come ask me for some help. Now we're going to look at the last 2 properties of addition. And these properties have to do with the identity and the inverse. So when I think about the word identity, right, that's kind of who you are, your identity. And then inverse is similar to opposite, okay? So first we're going to talk about identity. The additive identity of an expression is what you add to it in order to create a sum that is that same expression. Okay, that's kind of a mouthful. Pretty much it's like, what do you add to a number so that it stays the same? It keeps its identity. For addition, the identity is 0 because adding 0 to a number doesn't change it. And this should be old news for you guys. Okay, so pretty much any number added to 0 stays the same. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 0 is 3. 502 plus 0 is 502. Okay, so the identity property is what are you going to add to a number so that it keeps its identity? It stays the same. Oh, that's 0. Any number added to 0 stays the same. All right, so we got that identity property covered. Now let's look at the inverse. The additive inverse of an expression is what you add to create a sum of 0. The inverse is the same expression but with the opposite sign. So again, some fancy math language. What we're saying is, what do we add to a number to get the answer of 0? And that's its opposite. And we worked on that last week with 0 pairs. So, for example, 2 plus negative 2 is equal to 0. Some more examples might be 3 plus negative 3 is equal to 0. 502 plus negative 502 is equal to 0. So the inverse is when you add the opposite, you get an answer of 0. The identity is when you add 0, the answer stays the same. So down here, same thing as the last pages. You're going to fill in these blanks. 3 plus what equals 3? Oh, identity. I want to keep my answer the same. That means I add 0. 3 plus 0 is 3. We go to this one right here. You'll fill in that one. Now, 4 plus what is equal to 0? Oh, well, the inverse, the opposite. 4 plus negative 4 is equal to 0. All right, so your job right now, pause the video and try on your own and make sure you have all this jazz written down. Okay, hopefully you tried these on your own and you got the same answer. If you didn't, fix your mistake and try to figure out why. All right, let's move on to our last property. Okay, now we're going to look at the multiplicative properties, and these are the properties that we talk about when you're multiplying. So again, same thing as we are looking at the identity and the inverse properties, but on this page, it's about multiplying. So let's start with the multiplicative identity property. So the multiplicative identity of an expression is what you add to it in order to create a product that is that same expression. For multiplication, the identity is 1 because multiplying a number by 1 doesn't change it. So, and you guys should know this already, 2 times 1 is 2. Any number multiplied by 1 stays the same. It keeps its identity. So, for example, if we have 3 times 1, it keeps its identity because the answer is 3. If I have 502 times 1, the answer is 502 because it keeps its identity. Okay, now we're going to look at the multiplicative inverse, and this is a little bit different than the addition one. So the multiplicative inverse of an expression is what you multiply to create a product of 1, okay? The inverse is the reciprocal of the expression. And in case you forgot what the reciprocal is, it's the fraction flipped. So we have, let's say we have the fraction 2/3. The reciprocal would be 3/2. Okay, let's say we have the number 5. The reciprocal of 5 would be 1/5. So it's when you flip the numerator and the denominator. So with the multiplicative inverse, you're trying to get this answer of 1. And how do you do it? You multiply a number by its reciprocal. Whew, that's a mouthful. All right, let's do some examples. So you're going to, again, fill in these blanks using the multiplicative identity and inverse properties. So first here we have 6 times what is equal to 6? Well, it's keeping its identity, and we know that any number times 1 is itself. So 6 times 1 is equal to 6. Now we go here, and we have an answer of 1. Well, with the inverse property, if we multiply a number by its reciprocal, the answer is always 1. So what is the reciprocal of 4? 1/4. So 4 times 1/4 is equal to 1. Okay, pause the video and try these on your own. Okay, hopefully you tried these and you got these same answers. If not, like always, check your work, make corrections, and ask questions if you need to.